Berkeley in the 30s, from a racial standpoint, was very segregated.
The civil rights laws hadn't even been passed yet, so segregation and discrimination was part of our American way.
You know, Berkeley was just very racist. It was.
My parents, they met in Mississippi, and I guess somehow they decided to go to California, and so they continued on and they purchased a home in Berkeley. Our father worked for the Pullman Company and did a lot of traveling for a number of years until he retired. His home base was here in Oakland, California. And my mother was a housewife, but she was also very supportive and worked in activities in the community.
I remember Don as early as I can recall. And we were just kids in the neighborhood. Little Don was there, and I mean little Don. He was a little guy in those days.
Oh, we met when we were about 4 years old. Well, I guess we came to recognize each other or something. When we were younger, they used to think we were twins because we were always together. But the most vivid thing I remember about our early childhood is when his brother died. His brother fell off his grandmother's front porch and broke his neck. And most of the families in the neighborhood went to the funeral, but Don and I didn't go because we were too young.
There was one time when Don wanted to, I guess, practice or go play ball. And he wanted to go over to San Pablo Park, and my mom could see the advantages of him enjoying the sports, whereas my dad, whoever made any money bouncing a ball, and he went on and on with it. And later on, my mother informed him, well, stick around and you'll find out.
And the first time I interviewed Don, well, it may have been 15 years ago, and one of the things he talked about was that his father worked on the railroad. And I think he was part of the Pullman Porters Union. And so when Don was a kid, he used to go to some of the meetings, the Pullman meetings, with his father. And I think he heard A. Philip Randolph, who at that time was the head of the Pullman Porters. And Randolph would talk about, you know, having to be tenacious, you know, to try your best, you know, overcome obstacles. And I think hearing those things when Don was very young had a great impact on him.
I used to go up to the University of California and watch the football games, and I saw some guys that I thought were good ball players, great ball players. But my first hero was really Jackie Robinson, and that was the first one that I saw that I really thought that was sort of an idol to me. I was about 14 years old when I first saw Jackie, and I'd have to say he was my first big hero.
As we got older, Don and I were going to Berkeley High School. We took college prep courses. We weren't brilliant students, but we were good students. So they had tryouts for the basketball team, which Don and I were both eligible for. And Don and I tried out, and we didn't make the team. And that's when I first became aware of racism. That was our 10th grade year.
And Donald used to joke about the fact that 3 years in a row he was the first guy on the cut list at Berkeley High because his name started with B, so he was at the top of the list. So he didn't play high school ball, which, you know, would seemingly would make it impossible for him to play college ball.
Live Oak Park, there was a summer league up there, and these guys were all college players. And that's when it really got rough. The guys there up at Live Oak, they were stronger and taller than we were and more mature, but we had the bounce.
So he learned on the playground. And the coach at College of Marin, I think his name is Scoop Carlson, saw Donald play and thought, well, gee, this is a guy I'd like to have on my team. So Carlson recruited Donald, and M. Chapman, too, also to play at College of Marin.
And from our freshman year at Marin till through our sophomore years, we went down to Modesto and we won the Modesto tournament, which is like the state title for junior colleges. One of the sports writers referred to Don and I as the Gold Dust twins. It's a very demeaning picture to me. It's a picture of two little black kids on a soapbox and stuff, and their big lips and big eyes. And I found it demeaning. So I told Don I was going to write the paper protesting about being depicted as the Gold Dust twins. And Don told me, says, any publicity is good publicity. So that's one of our first real confrontations. Don was a very ambitious young guy. He was a hell of an athlete. He could run track. And then he'd gotten a scholarship down to UCLA. The war broke out. Rather than go into service, I chose to go to the shipyard where they were hiring people to work in Richmond. And rather than going back to Marin for my final about 3 or 4 months, I thought if I were in the shipyard doing the national defense, they wouldn't draft me as readily or quickly as they did, you know, other guys that weren't. But that didn't turn out to be the case. I went to the shipyard, Don stayed at Marin, and I got drafted before Don did.